Hi, I'm Heather, a certified personal trainer, yoga instructor, and have my BSN in exercise science and behavioral coaching from Arizona State University. I currently live in Oregon with my 3 kids, who I will reference often.
And I'm Britt, a former Division I collegiate athlete turned recreational triathlete and fitness instructor. I have a degree in exercise biology from UC Davis, and I currently live in Belgium with my husband and 4 kids.
Together, we're best friends wanting to bring the world of health and fitness back to a more grounded and balanced place that's accessible to everyone.
Each episode, we're going to talk about ways to live out a well-rounded and healthy life that makes sense in today's modern, busy world. We'll cover topics related to exercise, nutrition, mindset, mental health, competition, and so much more.
So sit back, sign up, and let's get ready to race to wellness. You were saying yesterday that you felt like you were going through burnout and that you were excited about talking about it.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So yesterday I noticed finally and kind of recognized the feelings that I'm having. And I've just been very uninspired to do almost anything exercise. Like, I'm fine with going for a walk and like doing a little bit of stretching, but like outside of that, I'm just like, I don't want to really do a lot of stuff. Like, I stopped doing my weightlifting program a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe. Has it been that long? Because I was just like, I started doing it because you started yours, and I was like, yes, like I'm inspired to like do something with you. And then I was like, this isn't the weightlifting program that I want to be doing at this period of my life. Like, it was like one that I had done previously. It was very clearly like programmed out to be more like explosive, powerful, strength-based, which I love, but it's not helpful for this current period of my life. And so I was just like, this isn't filling my cup when I do it. Like, half the time I'm like, I don't want to do it today. Yeah, so I've just been noticing more and more that I'm like, I don't want to do any of this. And I think that I finally figured out that I'm a little bit burnt out on just everything that's been going on. I don't want to fully get into it now. I think I'll save it for an episode in season 2. But my husband and I have been struggling a little bit with fertility. And so that's been a huge weight on us and taking a lot of emotional tolls. It's been dictating a lot of how I feel about exercise lately. Because whenever you go online and you read stuff that's like, oh, if you want to have the best success, you should not do anything stressful during these 2 weeks. And you're like, okay, cool. Everything that I've been doing is falling into stressful.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, oh, like everything is conflicting right now. And it's been difficult for my brain to be like rationalizing everything. And so I've just, been checking out a lot.
Yeah. I totally get that. I feel like, I could feel that from, not just from you, but like from me the last like 4 days, because like with my kiddos being sick and all that kind of stuff, it just feels like it feels like one thing after another. Like, as soon as somebody is healthy, then the next one gets sick, and it's like round and round and round we go. And I feel like I haven't had a break from that since probably December or so.
Wow.
And I'm like, when is this going to end? Yeah. And I'm not burnt out on the physical side of it because I had all of last year off. I feel like my fitness side of it is the only place in my life where I'm like, yes, full steam ahead, we're going. But everything else, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a week, which is where vacation comes in. I'm so excited. Why is coming?
I love how both of us, though, are experiencing this in 2 different ways. Like, mine is very like physical side. Like, I am just so uninspired and burnt out by all of this. I'm just going to check out. And yours is very emotional side of things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Which I think speaks to like how burnout can just like show up in anybody's life. It doesn't have to be like, we talk about fitness related stuff. And so that's probably the context that we're going to talk about it in today. But burnout can pop up in emotional side and mental side and spiritual side, like just in any realm or aspect of wellness in people's lives. And I think that it's super important to like be able to recognize that it's happening. And if you're not able to recognize that it's happening, that's when it's super helpful to like be talking to somebody else. So like a therapist or a behavioral coach. That's something that I do is behavioral coaching, and I help people recognize patterns in their lives and then overcome them. And so for our listeners, if that's something you're interested in, we have links down below. Hit me up. I'd love to talk to you more about what you're going through and how burnout might be showing up in your life.
The concept of burnout, I feel like, obviously has been around forever.
Mhm.
We know about this concept of people just like working themselves, and then just being like done. We've
Yeah.
known about it, but we haven't like really talked about it in any way, like publicly or in media or anything, until like a few years ago when the
Hmm.
pandemic happened. And then all of like our thoughts about mental health and working from home and boundaries
Amen.
and things had forced to shift, because now it's like, where does the work end? I'm already at my computer at home where I play my video games, and that's how I normally tune out. But I've been sitting here for 9 hours now. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's really interesting.
Yeah. I think that we should talk about what the difference is between burnout and stress, because
Yeah.
those two things, I think that people kind of feel like they're synonymous or that they kind of go hand in hand. And it's so stress, typically what it does for you inside of your body is it gives you your pupils dilate, your heart rate goes up, it gives you all sorts of like your sympathetic nervous system kind of goes into high mode. You get this rush of hormones that tell your body of adrenaline that tells you like I need to go 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 go, right? That's stress. And a stress is in response to work stuff, personal stuff, anything like that, and it gives you the energy to do things. It's usually not necessarily positive, but it's meant to be helpful and keep you motivated and going. And then burnout is kind of at the maximum part where you've been so stressed, so pushing so hard for so long that your body suddenly like shuts all of that down and you're like lethargic. You don't have any interest in doing the work anymore. You're not creative. You're not inspired. You're just kind of blah, really melancholy. You might get really irritable about a subject. Like, I know that this shows up in my life when I've been working on something and I'm like, I have been doing this for a while. I don't understand why I can't like move past this one sentence on a paper or a blog or a whatever. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just burnt out on that topic. Like, move on to
Yeah.
something else and then come back to it. Yeah. There's this with stress. I saw this article or a video or something where they were talking about like our stress response in our body is supposed to be something that's short-lived, right? So thinking about
Yeah.
like lions and prey and that kind of stuff in the jungle or in Africa or wherever you are, wherever they are, excuse me. But that prey are supposed to have this immediate adrenaline response
Hmm.
when something is stressful for them, when there's a predator coming after them. And they're supposed to have that so that they can run, they can get away, they can do whatever that they need to do, have the immediate energy. Everything else is shut down so that they can do that action and save their lives to live. And in humans, that's what it should be. We should have a stress response like, oh my gosh, I'm about to give a speech in front of all these people. I should have a stress response so that
Hmm.
I have like I'm really focused. My sound is shut down. I don't know if you get that. My ears like go really fuzzy when I am really stressed,
No.
so I can't hear anything. I get like tunnel vision, all sorts of things. But anyway, so we're supposed to have that response. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be short. It's supposed to get us to where we need to be, and then it's supposed to settle down. But the way that we live our lives, we're almost in a constant state of stress. So we have these hormones in our body all the time, and it's
Hmm.
not supposed to be like that. And then
Yeah.
it's supposed to come out of that hormone response, and then we're supposed to settle down. But because we're maintaining those levels of adrenaline all the time, at some point, your body's going to be like, I don't have any more to give you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
done. And yeah, and then that's where burnout happens.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And so also, it's important to recognize that you can prevent it a little bit by like taking actions of one, knowing what it is like that's going on in your body. So you have to be able to
Mhm.
recognize that these are the warning signs that are unique to you, because the warning signs for it are going to be different between all of us in a way,
Yeah, for sure.
especially if you're getting a burnout from, let's say, work. Work is whatever is the stressful thing in your life, versus if you're getting a burnout from like something personal in your life, whereas that's where all your stress coming from. You're probably going to have two different ways of this manifesting in yourself. Being able to recognize it and then taking steps to try to help yourself relieve some of that stress can trying to like redirect all that energy into something more positive. So in the example that you used of the prey and the savannah, they're going to take that stress and they're going to run and burn off those hormones and that adrenaline in them, and so that it's not going to sit in your body and cause other issues. So maybe that is something that we need to incorporate into our own lives of, okay, I am recognizing that I'm in a stressful situation right now, and so I need to schedule myself in 45 minutes to go outside and go for a walk, or to step away from the computer on my lunch break, and I need to walk around the building 3 times or whatever it is. Like get some movement in your body so that those hormones and that adrenaline has something to do.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're not using it in the work that you're doing. Like you might be feeling stressed by a deadline that you're supposed to be meeting, and you have plenty of time to do it, but you just are perpetuating it by thinking and thinking and thinking and stressing yourself out about it. So definitely being able to get that out of your body. And I think that you hit on a really good point there about there's a difference between like daily burnout of like, oh, I've hit my max that I can do this and I need to go do something else for a little bit. And then like full blown burnout where you've been burnt out over and over and over again. And it becomes this like really fatigued. I'm so tired all the time. I don't understand what's going on. Like, I know people that are like that right now. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday about like, they're like, I'm just so tired and I don't know why. And it's like, you've been going for so long. And once you hit that point, it's much more difficult to kind of come out of it than if you had been noticing and acknowledging that stress and that burnout in those daily moments and taking care of it then.
Yeah, agreed. Because I feel like we've all had that experience or that feeling in life where maybe you go on vacation and so you've detached yourself from your normal daily routine for, let's say, 5 days, and you go and you lay on the beach somewhere like in Hawaii, or you go to the mountains and you go hiking, or you go fishing at the lake, whatever it is that is like your happy place vacation. And then you come back from it and you feel just rejuvenated and more motivated to do things again. Like, I feel like we've all had that moment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thinking about in your daily life, if you feel like burnout is something that you're having around work or around personal life, emotional stuff, that kind of thing, and you want to have a moment to like go and do something physical, like Brittany was saying about going for a walk, something like that. So during the month of May, along with season 2 of our podcast, we're going to be hosting a squat challenge. So that could be something that you throw in throughout your day. If you're feeling like you're burnt out from sitting at your desk and you're like, I just need to go and move my body real quick, like jump up, go outside, do 10 or 20 squats, whatever's on the list for the day. And there's going to be some prizes, that kind of stuff. It'd be really cool. And I'm excited to just see people doing squats. I love squats. Love them. So we're going to put a link down below. You guys can check it out. I feel like we need something positive. I felt like that was very lot.
Again, this topic is like not super positive.
Yeah, it's a hard one, but I think it's so important for us to recognize it, like, and acknowledge it and be okay with it. Like, I feel like there's such a, almost like a stigma that comes along with it, like, of like, oh, I'm burnt out. And it's like such a negative thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than being like, oh, you've been working yourself really, really hard. Let's plan some self-care. Let's do those positive things for ourselves and support ourselves so that we don't get to that point again.
Yeah. I like that you're calling out there's like this negative stigma on it, like, and surrounding it. Especially because in the news recently, we've had a couple of very high profile women I think there's been one man, but mostly women who have come out and resigned from their position. One of them was the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Yes.
Who else was there? Was another woman. Now I can't think of her name or who it is. But anyways, very high profile people that have resigned from their position and calling out burnout as one of the factors of resigning from their position. Now, I don't want to get political on this, but like obviously there are other factors that may have helped them to get to that point. But I think it's important to recognize that I'm sure that a lot of the negative press that they got and the pushback from other sides of parties and things like that, if they were politicians, probably weighed on them a lot and pushed them over the edge in that burnout journey that they were having.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I feel like the negative stigma. So I think that there's a social and a cultural expectation that we have unlimited energy all the time. And that's just not a reasonable expectation. Like, we do not have limitless energy in our body. Like, even if you had a drug addiction that was keeping your momentum going forward, running all the time, like, you're going to hit a point where you don't have the energy for it anymore. I think that socially and culturally, the expectation is there that we are this Energizer bunny who can just go, 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 go all the time. And I think that we're getting to a point where there's a shift, where it's okay to acknowledge that I don't have the energy for this all the time. And and it's such an interesting thing. Like, I feel like there's such a struggle back and forth right now between generations of like, you should be able to do this. And the younger generations being like, no, I don't want to live my life in a state of constant stress and overworked and exhausted and not able to enjoy my life. And so I think that it's super important that we acknowledge burnout in a positive way, that not in a positive way that we've gotten to a point of burnout, but in a positive way of like, we're recognizing our burnout and changing the way that we live our lives.
Or we're taking steps in our daily life to minimize the effects of the stress that we're having and everything. Yeah,
agreed. Well, and I think that by being planful about the work that we're doing to like stop us from having burnout, I think that that's where the work comes in, because culturally the expectation is that we be able to accomplish XYZ amount of work, right? From the previous generations, you be able to accomplish all of this work. And I think that it's important to still be able to accomplish work to the same or similar capacity, but also build in those fail safes so that we don't get to the point of burnout. And I think that it's not less work that's being done by younger generations, but it's different work, or the way that we're going about the work is different. And I don't think that that's a negative thing. I think it's positive.
Especially because for so long it's been, and it still kind of is, like that badge of honor. This goes back to our conversation we had about sleep, where you don't need to sleep and that's a good thing. Like, no, it's not. Like, your body needs that sleep. Exactly. It's not a badge of honor to say that you're sleep deprived and you're able to function off of 4 hours of sleep. It's actually kind of a warning sign that, hey, you might be doing a little too much and maybe you need to reach out for some assistance from people. Maybe it's because you have children and maybe you need to ask for some help with childcare from a partner or family member or child, like daycare type of services. And I think that that's starting to change as well, as that the younger generations are recognizing these badges of honor aren't really that great.
Yeah, they're not a badge of honor. They're a badge of like, I don't want that one. I do not. I do not want that participation. Don't want that trophy. You can keep it. Thanks for that
one. Are you, this is kind of a side note, are you someone who like loves the achievements? Like, I can collect this badge or whatever and I want it?
Yes, sometimes. So like I use Duolingo. I'm learning French right now, and their little daily like goals or whatever, or they've got, I don't know if you've ever used Duolingo, but they have like the Sapphire League and the Gold League and the blah, 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 all these. I want to be at the top of that list. And I'm like literally sitting there like trying to do it. And I'm like, Heather, you cannot learn all of French today. Like, it's not going to happen. So take a break. Walk away from it.
Heather, drink some wine. You can know French.
You can know French. Yeah. But I love them.
Now I want to know where I am.
Oh, right. Which league you're in or whatever.
Yeah.
It's depressing.
I haven't done mine in so long, though. I gave up on Duolingo. Okay. No, I don't care about... Whoa! Okay, sorry. I have been out of Duolingo so much that they have changed the layout and it looks different now, and now I'm excited. But anyways. But yeah, so I'm also a achievement person. Like, if I'm playing a video game or like Duolingo, I need all the like little badges and things. I'm just like, how do I get this one? What do I have to do?
What do I have to do? Tell me. Yep. I feel like that, like, I'm like that in life. Just in general. I'm like, that's probably why I have so many certifications and random things, is because I'm like, you mean I just have to learn this little bit and then I can have that little paper that says, and so silly.
It is
dumb.
so silly.
Yeah. Should we talk about maybe the signs of burnout? Because we've talked about, I mean, I think we've touched on it a little bit, but I think it's important that we like literally outline like, yeah. What does it look like when you have burnout?
Right. So it can look, as we kind of stated, it can look a little different, and in different individuals, it might manifest a little bit differently. Just like any disease or chronic illness, those types of things, like you might not have all of the signs and symptoms of it, but you'll probably have a fair amount of them.
Yeah.
So some of the physical signs that you may be experiencing a burnout, Heather already mentioned a big one, is you're tired all the time, and there's no reason for it. Like, you might literally wake up from your 8 hours of sleep, and you might have gotten good sleep, and then 2 hours later you are just done, like tired all the time. Headaches, again, maybe no reason for your headaches. Muscle pains, stomach issues, a lot of stress tends to manifest itself in your stomach and in your guts. So you maybe have some sort of issues with digestion or just stomach pain, that sort of thing. You might find it really difficult to fall asleep. And my favorite one, not my favorite, but like, this is my favorite one, but like one that I constantly am always thinking about, like when people are really stressed out or they're going too hard, is that they're constantly getting sick all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a friend from college who, it was rare that she wasn't sick, honestly. And it was just because she would be doing 5 million things all the time. And her job was really stressful, and it was just a lot just was going on. And so she was always in some sort of basically perpetual state of illness for like 2 or 3 years.
God, can you imagine living life like that? And I know that there are people that do, like a lot of people. Yeah. And it just breaks my heart because like, that's what I think about like with fitness and wellness and health and all that kind of stuff, is that like your body is supposed to feel good. Like, and I think that people get so far away from that because they're just like programmed to feel like, oh, this is just normal for me to feel tired. This is just normal for me to like get headaches on a regular basis, that kind of stuff. And it's like, no. Your body is meant to feel good, not just okay, not functioning, good. Your body is meant to feel good.
It's interesting too, because like I've had long stretches of my life where like, so one of the things that I feel like I deal with constantly is like congestion. Like I'm not sick, but like it feels like my nose is congested even though there's nothing there. And then I'll go through like 6 months to a year of like having this feeling, and then all of a sudden it will clear up, and then I'll be like, how was I living like this?
Yeah, not realizing that it was happening.
Yeah, and like you don't even realize it because it becomes your norm. And so you don't even recognize sometimes that this is not how it's supposed to feel, or this is not how your body is supposed to be reacting to something. And I feel like that's, again, where working with somebody else outside of you is really helpful because they can help point out some things that you might not even recognize.
Agreed. I think it's actually like speaks to a key point about people who go to the gym, like people who work out regularly. People that don't work out on a regular basis or do physical activity in any way are like, they just don't get it. They're like, I don't understand. Like, because going to the gym sucks. Like, it's hard work. It doesn't always feel good, all that kind of stuff. And yet, like, people who go to the gym, like, love it, like, really, really love it. And for me, like, one of the things that keeps me going back to the gym, even if the workout is really hard, if it's tough or it's whatever, like, is that positive feeling afterwards. Like, the fact that my body feels good on a day-to-day basis, on a regular basis. And I know that as soon as I stop working out consistently, that my body starts feeling like garbage. And I don't want to feel like that. And that is enough of a motivating factor for me to keep going to the gym, to keep going on a walk, to keep doing the fitness and exercise and feeding my body well. Because as soon as I fall off of it, then it feels so awful because I'm aware of what good feels like.
Yeah. So that was the physical signs of burnout. What are the mental signs of burnout?
Yeah. These are the ones that get me. I'm like, where I can tell that they're like, oh, I'm getting close to that point. Like, as soon as I get irritable, that's where I'm like, what's going on? But yeah, feeling disconnected from what you're doing. Like, if you've been excited and passionate about like whatever you're working on. So for example, like, I'm working on building my business and I'm like so excited about it. And then there's days where I'm like, I don't want to. And I'm like, that's when I know that I'm like, I need a break. I'm hitting that point of burnout. I've been going. Anytime I'm irritable, like overwhelmed, just a general feeling of constantly overwhelmed, no matter what you're doing. Like, and the thought of like, for me, it's if I go into the kitchen and I'm supposed to be making dinner and the idea of making dinner for me and my kids is too much, I'm like, oh, okay, I've pushed too hard for too long.
Yeah.
Anxiety showing up when it's not usually there. If you're lacking creativity, if you're just emotionally numb, like you feel like nothing can get through to you and you're like, somebody can be excited and talking to you about what you've been excited and talking about and you're just like, what about it? That can be a sign. If you feel like you don't lack purpose in what you're doing in your life, or if you're just really cynical about things in general when you're not normally. Those are all signs of burnout.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like laughing because look at the light change that happened while you were talking.
So weird. It's beautiful.
So daylight savings is not the same in Belgium as it is in America. And our daylight savings happens this weekend, I believe. I think it happens on Sunday. And so
so we're back to 9 hours again.
And so we
Sunday?
we will be back to that difference. But I'm just like, what is going on right now? What is this light? Yeah. It'll be better and worse too because I'll be an hour later, obviously. And so like this would be 6:30 my time next week.
Oh,
this is what 6:30 will look like with this light.
So much light.
Just hello.
Yeah. I don't think that we talked about like we talked about the physical signs of burnout, but I don't think we've talked about like what the real like in your body, what can happen long term if you allow yourself to get to burnout. I don't know that I've researched that enough to know.
I haven't really, Is there research enough on that?
I don't know. Like, let's see.
What does Google say? Because, that's a trusted site.
Lead to in body. It can lead to personal and professional dissatisfaction, social isolation, relationship problems, depression, substance abuse, and in extreme cases, suicide.
Yeah, I was going to say it probably leads to depression, which there you go.
There you go.
Pretty much it. I mean, that makes total sense too, because a lot of the mental signs of it are also signs of depression. So feeling disconnected from everything, feeling emotionally numb, feeling a loss of purpose. Like all of these are also signs of depression.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. I'm like, because I like knowing that those two things are very similar and that burnout can lead to depression. I think about like, I've never identified until recently, I should say, recently, I hadn't identified any periods in my life where I would have said I was depressed. except
Yeah.
for when I was going through my divorce. When I was going through that, I was depressed. In the moment, I didn't realize it, but looking back, I'm like, whoa, all of those manifested. But it also could, I mean, I'm like, it could have been burnout, but I think it was depression.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think, well, again, because we are fairly young.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you've seen our bonus content, you know why I'm excited about being able to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are still young people.
We are still fairly young. But like when I look back on like a lot of my younger days, I can definitely pinpoint like, yep, I was depressed here.
Yeah.
But I feel like it wasn't until like the last 5 years that I even really knew what depression was. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure that the younger generations now are much more keyed into it because
Mhm.
it's just so much more of like a talking point now. But
Yeah.
when I was 20 years old, I don't think I really knew what depression was. Like in
Yeah.
my brain, depression was basically like a suicidal type person.
Yeah. Same.
And
Mhm.
like, I would not have been able to pinpoint. I know, like, looking back on it now, I know that I was depressed when I was in college. Like,
Mhm.
all the signs are there. I may have been
Yeah.
a semi functional depressed person because I would still go to class when I needed to and I'd show up to practice when I needed to. But like, all these other
Yeah.
warning signs are there. And I just didn't know that was a thing,
Yeah.
really. Because again, it wasn't talked about.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because female college age athletes are actually among the highest levels of depression in the country. Like the suicide rate for that demographic
Yeah.
it's really, really high. It's scary. And I
Yeah.
think that it's because like the expectation for so long has been that the women be just like mentally stable and carry themselves through and like just push harder and all that kind of stuff. And it's not been acceptable to talk about when we're
Yeah.
feeling those feelings and when and what that looks like. And so I think that, again, that shift in culture where it's now acceptable. Like, I know that, like, for me, again, thinking back to like a badge of honor, it's been a badge of honor for me that, oh, I've never felt depressed before. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, no, like I definitely,
have.
there were moments of depression in there that I just didn't acknowledge in the moment that I was experiencing that. And that
Yeah.
I'm okay with saying I was depressed. I am depressed sometimes and it not being like a question on my mental stability, like the fact that I'm still fully functioning, able to maintain life and job and kids and family and all that kind of stuff, it has no impact on that. The fact that I experience depressed emotions.
Yeah. I think I'm still like working through some of it maybe like cuz I don't really think I've ever talked to anyone except you and maybe two other people about the fact that I was definitely going through rough times in these periods of life.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's still one of those things where it is like I need to hold it secret because I don't want people to know. Now
Yeah.
people know. No.
No, everybody
But
knows, right?
yeah, it's very interesting. And this was just my experience, so I don't want to talk for like all student athletes and all female athletes, but we had one female coach on our team, and I believe the rest were all males. And so I felt like I didn't have a lot of people to go talk to about like what was happening in my life. And I didn't have at the time the strongest relationship with my female coach because she wasn't directly my coach. Like she was
Yeah.
our head coach for our females, women's track and field team, but she wasn't directly coaching me in any events. And so I didn't have that relationship where I felt like I could go to her and talk to her about things. And so I think that was also a contributing factor to things where I just felt really isolated a lot of times where I don't have
Mhm.
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which could be one of the long-term effects of burnout and of depression is that isolation, like you just feel so
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important that we recognize those experiences and those emotions and those signs of burnout Yeah, and act on them before we get to that point. Yeah.
Self-care.
Self-care. Yeah.
Yeah.
I one of the things that I say about self-care, or I tell my clients and talk to them about, is that self-care isn't something that you should just be doing like, oh, I feel so tired today. Now I'm going to do self-care.
Okay.
Self-care should be part of your regular plan for your life. Like I plan for, like, on Saturday, I'm spending 2 hours just doing self-care. So just reading a book, I'm just doing an activity that I like, taking myself to a movie, going to dinner by myself, like something that I love and enjoy, and taking care of myself in that way, and not in response to the things in my life, but understanding that the things in my life are going to happen. They're going to continue on, continue on, continue on. So rather than allowing them to continue to a point where I'm stressed and burnt out, then doing the self-care, plan the self-care throughout your life so that you're not getting to the point of burnout.
Mm-hmm. I also feel
Mhm.
like there's this weird, it's not necessarily a stigma, but it kind of is around self-care where it's for like rich people or like
Yeah.
people who have means to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do it. And it's not like, it's not
Mm-mm.
just going to the spa. Like
Yeah.
that can be a
Yeah.
form of
It can
it, but you
be.
don't have to.
Yeah. It can be something much smaller. So, like, you and I talk a lot about the tea that we drink. That's self-care for me. Like, getting to drink, you're drinking yours, I got mine. And like getting to drink something that's warm and
Okay.
comforting every day, that's a form of self-care for me. Like getting to wear a lip balm that I love, that's self-care for me. Like taking those moments, you have yours, I got mine. I was like, they're
I have
never more than an
3 on
arm's
my
distance.
desk right now.
Right? And like things like that are self-care for me. And this sounds silly, but using a pen that you like, that you really, really enjoy writing with. So if you have to do the work, make it enjoyable for yourself.
Mhm.
Like little things like that throughout the day. Things like fuzzy socks. If I wake up in the morning and I'm like, gosh, I'm tired, I put on something that's comforting for me. So a pair of fuzzy
That's right.
socks, a sweater that I like those sorts of things, like taking the moments to do self-care. Like, yeah, throughout the day, and not just as like a big event necessarily,
Yeah.
but all the time.
Yeah. And also, it can be something that you can do with other people as well. It doesn't have to be just self-care where you're
Mm-hmm.
isolated off by yourself. It could be that you meet up with your friend at the coffee shop every
Yeah.
Saturday at 10 a.m. and you spend 2 hours catching up with them, and that is your form of like self-care for the week.
Yeah. Agreed. I also think that, like, up to this point, like, self-care has been thought of as, like, a selfish act, and it's not.
Mhm.
Like, self-care for ourselves, like, yes, we're taking care of our physical selves and our mental selves and our bodies and everything, but we're also taking care of the people around us by being able to give them the best version of ourselves, by
Yeah.
being and taking care of ourselves so that we can be the best version of ourselves.
There's We talked about that a little bit in our episode where we talked about guilt, where
Mhm.
it's not selfish to prioritize your own fitness because if
Mhm.
you are showing up as a lesser version of yourself for your family, well, that's not fair to your family either.
Well, and I think that guilt plays into this. So thinking about the reason why we're stressed about the work that we're doing. So thinking about like at work, right? So I'm stressed because I want to get this work done by X deadline, right? But the reason I want to get it
Cheers.
done by X deadline is because if I don't, I'm going to feel guilty about it. And
Yeah.
that's not where we want to be. And so planning accordingly so that we aren't experiencing the guilt, we aren't experiencing the burnout, we're taking care of ourselves in a way that allows us to do the work in a productive and healthy way, and get to the same goal in a better way.
Yeah.
I also think that there's been a lot of talk around like thinking about personal training and like the fitness side of it, that there's people say, oh, I don't have the energy to go to the gym. Like I hear that a lot. And I wish that there was some way for me to like explain, like, you get energy by giving energy. Like, you give energy to this in your life. And so you are going to receive energy from that as well. Like, not
Mhm.
just like metaphysically and in your spiritual realm or whatever, but also like literally physically in your body. When I do exercise, my body then uses the fuel that I'm eating in an efficient way so that I have
Mhm.
more energy to go and do the exercise that I want to do.
Yeah. Exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you
Mhm.
happy, and happy people
Yeah.
just don't shoot their husbands.
Or maybe they do.
I
Oh my gosh, they don't shoot their husband.
have that quote sitting on one of my blog um, post things as like, sometime I will write something related to this.
I love it. Happy people don't. Oh my gosh, happy people don't shoot their husbands.
I don't.
True. I
Elle
love
Woods taught me that.
it. Gosh, I think that's the play I went and saw you in, right?
It
At
is.
Theater in the Grove. That's so cute. Cool.
Yeah,
That was fun.
it was
I
fun.
like that. Yeah. Cool.
Set some
So
boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah. Which can be another form of self-care, like knowing where your limits are and
Mhm.
being able to set your boundaries up appropriately so that you are preserving your own
Mhm.
peace and making sure
Yeah.
that you are taking care of your own needs. So one of them might be
Mhm.
that you need to say no to doing stuff on Saturdays or Sundays because that is your day of
Yeah.
recharge. So you need to say
Mhm.
no to, I'm sorry, I can't volunteer for this on Sundays.
Yeah. This makes me think of, so going back to what you said about like meeting up with a friend on Saturday. Like, if you know that that fills your cup, then that's awesome. But like,
Yeah.
for introverted people, that's not necessarily going to fill your cup, right? Like, that's the difference between you and me. I could
Mhm.
be out talking to people and being with people all the time, and I love it. Whereas you're not necessarily like that. But
Yeah.
understanding how you function as a person and not having any shame related to that, like, I think that there's been kind of, again, another stigma around being introverted and like just wanting to be at home and being cozy
Mhm.
with that versus always being out with people and interacting, that kind of stuff. But setting those boundaries and saying, I know that if I go out more than one night per week or one day per week to spend time with people, that that's going to be too much for me. And
Mhm.
having that be okay, setting a boundary with yourself and saying, I'm not going to push myself to do that. I'm just going to accept that that's who I am. I want to be at home more than I want to be out, and that's okay.
Yeah. I sent you it wasn't funny, but it kind of is funny, a TikTok in our stream. And it was this guy being like, that's the goal of an introvert is we want to be invited to
Mhm.
every single thing out there, but we're not going
Yeah.
to show up to anything.
Mhm.
I
No.
was like,
Whereas
that's
I'm the
me speaking
opposite.
about me.
Yeah, I was like, only invite me to something if you absolutely want me to come because I will be there. Like,
I will show up for everything that you invite me
I
to.
will show up for everything. And if I don't, I feel so bad about it because I want to be there.
That's so funny. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I show up to more than I
Then you
say.
want
Like
to.
not that I want to, but more than I say that I'm like not going to show up. Like, so I want to be invited to
Okay.
everything. Yes, that is
Yeah.
true. But I will probably show up to more than a lot of like introverts will show up
Introverts.
to.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on this range of introverts and extroverts are over here type of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
not a full blown like leave me alone at all times. I'm going to read a book introvert. But
Mhm.
I'm not showing up to whatever you're doing over here every time.
Every event. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
But
Yep.
if your form of self-care again is meeting up with other people for a couple hours on a Saturday or you do an event with them,
Mhm.
and you know that that's your form of it, seeking out other people that you can talk to then is a good way to help like relieve some of this, because if you have someone that on Saturdays you meet up for 2 hours and you're able to talk to them about your life and what's going on and
Mhm.
just vent out some of your frustrations in a helpful and a trusting environment, but like a positive like way,
Mhm.
it can be
Yeah.
really nice because you now get to talk through it with somebody instead of
Yeah.
holding it all inside of you and letting it just spiral up together and clench in on everything, you can get some of it out. And then they might be
Mm-hmm.
able to give you advice, or they might be able to let you bounce ideas off of them and be kind
Mm-hmm.
of that form of therapy for yourself where you're just going to talk it through until you figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that like I feel like I've already talked about it, but the behavioral coaching that I do, one of my favorite parts of the work that I do is that I get to be like a sounding board and just
Yeah.
listening ears for somebody. Like it's not often in our lives that we get to show up to a conversation where there's no expectation from the other side of it, that
Uh,
we listen to what they have to say and that we like have to experience their emotions and listen to them as well. In a
yeah.
behavioral coaching session, you get to show up and just talk about yourself. Like what you guide the
Yeah.
conversation. My job is to listen and just to provide support and feedback, and it's such a like a healing relationship, I feel like. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm like, I love being that for people, being able to just listen to
Yeah.
what they have going on and that they get that space to just talk about themselves and what they're going through without
Mhm.
expectation.
Yeah. Well, because again, like a lot of therapy, the
Mm-hmm.
therapist isn't actually telling you what to do or
Mm-mm.
making you do anything. They're there as the sounding board and asking you questions of why does that make you feel like this? Or why do
Mm-hmm.
you think that happened? And they're guiding you through a conversation
Mm-hmm.
and helping you get to your final destination of your outcome. But they're not necessarily sitting there being like, well, you need to stop thinking that way.
Mm-hmm. Right?
You
Yeah,
need to
for
quit
sure.
your job. Like there are therapy sessions where they're going to tell you like you need to stop doing that because maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
dangerous behavior, or maybe you're going through some sort of alcohol or drug problem where you need to stop putting yourself into an environment where you are surrounded by drugs and alcohol.
Yeah,
So
for
there
sure.
are times when, yes, your therapist is going to tell you what to do, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times your therapist is there to help you figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So what do we do? Like if we get to burnout? I think that's the next question. So we've done a lot of talking about some ways to prevent burnout and like what it looks like when you're on your way to that point. But what do you do once you're there? And how do you
Yeah.
get back out of it? Yeah. Um I think it's super important to, in the moment when you have reached that point where you're like, I'm lethargic, I'm so tired, I'm having headaches, I don't know why I feel like this, like to look at your life and examine what you have going on
Okay.
and just acknowledge all the things that you're carrying and dealing with, and then find ways to let some of those go.
hmm Or
Like
put them on
reassess your
pause.
priorities. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times we probably have way too much going on, anyways. And being
Yeah.
able to let one go or say, I need to pause this for now and maybe I'll pick it back up later once I figured some stuff out. Like
Hmm.
that can be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
was writing a blog post the other day that was talking about like that I had this like brilliant idea of like, this is what I want to do. I'm really excited about it. And then I literally like wrote it down as a goal and then put it on the back burner and was just like,
Yes.
this is a goal for longer term, but I don't have the capacity for it right now. And I can be
Yeah.
excited about it and give it the correct energy later. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the important part is like recognizing that, like, if you continuously say yes, say yes, say yes, like none of those things that you're saying yes to in your life are going to get your full attention and the best version of you. And I think that's how all of us really want to show up in our lives is as the best
Okay.
version. And so by being able to set that boundary and make small, realistic goals for our lives and say, nope, that's too much for right now. I'm going to put that aside, and prioritizing self care, prioritizing the things that are
Okay.
most important in your life, that's when we're going to be able to show up as the best version of ourselves.
Yeah. Goes kind of right back to those badges of honor, like being
Mm-hmm.
able to juggle a whole bunch of different things or multitask with 12 different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you can do 12 different things at once, but are any of them really getting the best attention? I think that
Mm-hmm.
the there's a study that showed that you're not actually multitasking. You're just
Yeah.
switching back and forth really quickly in your mind between different tasks. So nothing is really
Yeah.
going on at the same time in your
Mm-hmm.
brain. You're just quickly taking your attention from point or from task A to task B, and then task B to C, and then back to A, and then to D, and then to F, and then, but you're
All
not
over the
doing
place.
both of them together.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like if that is something that motivates you, that badge of honor that you're talking about. I know
Mhm.
for my own self that I would rather have a quote badge of honor for each of those individual tasks being done to the best of my ability than that one badge of honor that was like, I could do all of these 12 things all at once. I would
Yeah.
much rather win in all of them
And
in a
you'll
slower
probably get a
time.
much better outcome for them too, because you were able to dedicate more of your
Hmm.
time and more of your attention to them rather than trying to draw a picture of a horse while also making eggs. Like,
Right? I thought you were gonna say while riding a horse. And I'm like, yep.
also
Draw a
that.
horse. Well, yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it.
So, because I
Yeah.
watch so much British TV now, there's this show called
Mhm.
Taskmaster. I think I've told you about it.
Yes, I love Taskmasters. Okay.
But there was one that was draw a horse while riding a horse.
That's awesome.
Oh
Can
my
you
God.
imagine? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can. I
Oh,
watch
that,
people do it.
what? Oh my gosh. I love
It was great.
so much. Yeah. I think that we touched on it earlier, but about cultural shift a little bit around burnout and like,
Sure.
but I think that it's super important that once we're in that moment, so um, offering ourselves some grace and some
Yeah.
compassion, that it's okay that we reach the point of burnout. Like, do we want to get there again? No, never, ever, ever. If we can prevent it, we should. But if we have reached a point of burnout, then it's okay for us to be like, it's okay that I did not do everything.
Sure.
It's okay that I didn't have the energy for this today. I'll
Yeah.
try again tomorrow. And just take those moments that we need and give ourselves the rest and the self-care and just be okay with it.
Mhm. And we shouldn't think of it as like an embarrassing thing or something to be ashamed
Mhm.
of either. I think that's part of why we judge ourselves so much and we don't give ourselves that compassion because we think of it
Mhm.
as being something that you should be ashamed of or you shouldn't tell people about. But
Yeah.
really, you probably reached that point because you had the best intentions
Yeah.
and you just took too much on your plate or you didn't notice what was happening until everything got too much.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess recognizing then that
Mhm.
this is not something you should be ashamed of and something
Mm.
that you should hide away from people and seek help and assistance where you can because some of those
Yeah.
tasks may not be something you can just let go away. So again, it
Yeah.
might be some form of childcare or tasks around the house and you can't just say no to these tasks. But
Mhm.
maybe you are in a space where you could hire a house cleaner for an hour a
Mhm.
week and they might be able to come and help you with chores that were previously taking up a lot of your time and your energy. Maybe you have a spouse or family member who can come watch your child for an hour a day or 3 times a week
Mhm.
so that you can get away to go to the grocery store or go to the gym or get that coffee with your friend that you've been
Mhm.
desperately seeking. Sure, you can bring them with, but if that is causing you extra stress or it's making it more difficult, it might not be the best of scenarios.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. And really working to find balance between everything that you have in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like thinking about the way that we prioritize things. Like I think about like my kids' lunches, like either 2 or 3 days a week because they split time between my house and their dad's house. Either 2 or 3 days a week, I have to make them lunches for their school day. And so am I going to take the time every morning to make their lunch, or can I like put it all on one day? So do it all at once so that I don't have to think about it again. Take some of that mental load. I don't think we've talked about that a lot, but there's a lot of burnout that comes from just carrying the mental load of your life, especially I know that in relationships with children and to parents, that there's more mental load sometimes on the women. And so if that's you, delegating tasks if you have to, asking for support from the people around you, and letting go of some of that mental load.
Yeah. And also just knowing that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like if your kid showed up to school with their lunch and it didn't have perfect servings of fruits, vegetables, protein, dairy, whatever your pyramid looks like, it's okay every once in a while. They're not going to die.
Yeah. I have to remember that. Like I remind myself of that often with like my kids' lunches. I make my kids a sandwich in their lunch every single day, and that freaking sandwich comes home every single day uneaten. And so I finally was like, I'm not sending you a sandwich. And they're like, but what about me? And I'm like, you have 47 snacks in there. Eat a snack. Yeah. Like, because you're not eating the sandwich anyway. I'm not going to make it. Like, yes, it looks like I'm doing a good job as a parent because I put a sandwich in there and it's well balanced and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, really? This is one meal out of 4 per day. And if you don't have a sandwich in there and you just eat snacks, that's okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Like, I'm not trying to say that you were doing something wrong here, but like if you're making a sandwich for your kids every day and they're not eating it, you might want to change up how you make their lunch because one, they're not eating maybe the proper amount of food at lunchtime, but you're wasting effort from yourself on something that's not going to pay out because you had to take, let's say it takes you 5 minutes to make all 3 sandwiches. Well, 5 minutes does not seem like a big of an effort, but like you're doing it every single day and nobody's eating the sandwich.
Nobody's eating it. I'm like, I think about, because it's not just like, we think about things in the increments of time, right? And I'm like, it might only take 5 minutes, but I'm like, I think about like, I have to pull the bread out of the cupboard. I pull the peanut butter out of the cupboard. I pull the jelly out of the fridge. I pull the knife out of the drawer. I have to wash that knife. I have to get the baggies out of the drawer to put the sandwiches in, to put them in the lunchbox. Like, it's all these teeny tiny little tasks that take time and mental energy from us. And if I go through all of that energy and effort to put that sandwich together in their lunchbox with love and a note and all the stuff, and they're not touching it, like, that's a waste of my energy that I could have put toward my personal self-care or toward cleaning my house or toward my job or something that I'm passionate about. Like all those little bits of energy that we put out could be put towards something more important. And I think that letting go of the expectations that I have to be a good mom by creating XYZ perfectly squared lunch, it's bullshit. Like, let go of those expectations and do what works for you and for your family, and it'll be so much better for you.
Yeah. I like it. I think we're going to have an episode next season. Can you believe we're already at season 2 almost?
No, that's wild.
Yeah. But we're going to have an episode next season about decision fatigue, which plays right off of what you were just talking about. So tune in. Make sure you tune in for that because we're going to go into a lot more detail.
So many details. I love it. Yeah. I'm excited to talk about that. Yeah, and season 2 is coming. There's lots of exciting things coming with season 2 of this podcast. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow us. Our social media links are down below, you guys. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a comment or ring that bell. That sounds so weird. But anyway.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Oh my God. But really, if you really like what you're hearing, please support us and share it with your friends and family. We really appreciate it. And I hope this helps. Thanks for joining us today at Race to Wellness. We hope it was both fun and informative for you. Make sure to join us for our next episode, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content.
Also, we'd love to keep the conversation going, so feel free to ask us any questions or leave us a comment down below. You can also send us an email at racetowellness2023@gmail.com and click on the links in the description to follow us on our social media platforms.